Welcome, runners, to episode 31 of Mr. Rubio Used to Run, the Running Warehouse podcast. I'm Joe Rubio, one of your hosts, and my associate, Connor Blaylock. He's our other host here, and we're going to talk about some running stuff today. How you doing?
We do, Joe. We talk running. And, my running just in general.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask about your running. How's your running?
The shoes are great.
Yeah.
The training itself has been having some ups and downs.
Okay, that's how life is.
It's how it goes. I think coming off the big half marathon a couple months ago, ran it, decently. We always had higher expectations, but took a little bit of a break. And sometimes those breaks are great for your recovery, for your mental health. Sometimes you get a little too relaxed, and I got in a little bit of a rut and then got sick, got going again, got sick again. So kind of had some ups and downs, but I'm on the mend.
Okay, good.
The training is back, volume's up. We're starting workouts again. So we're just going to extend this season out a little bit later, but that's how it goes sometimes.
That's good.
How about you?
Actually, I shouldn't say it's going great. It's when you get to a certain point in your life and runs are just survival.
Yeah.
But actually, I felt pretty good this morning.
Okay.
It was actually a run.
Yeah.
The only problem is when I get those annually, I tend not to be able to walk the next day. But anyways, I feel pretty good right now.
Yeah.
So having a good run is actually good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So what is the big news in the running world? The thing that shows up on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere. It showed up everywhere except in my life. You just may be aware of it a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm maybe not racing quite yet, but we're in full swing of indoor, going into outdoors.
I mean, people are running crazy fast.
Really fast.
Right.
And the biggest video of the week, of the month, maybe of the year for the sport of track and field, you've probably seen it. It's at, I believe it was at the national or at the state meet, and this girl just whacks another girl in the head with the baton. We'll have the video, and I'm sure most people have already seen this. And there's controversy because
I don't know why there's controversy. Well, one is if you haven't seen it, it's like coming off the turn, and one of the athletes goes to the outside.
Yep.
And to prevent this from happening, the one who's getting passed, the gal who's getting passed, takes the baton, takes it over her head, and clubs the other gal in the head.
And it's a serious, downward motion.
It's not like I don't know. But
and we're getting more information, and supposedly she's got a concussion, potential fracture of the skull. This is a serious blow, and now we hear that the girl who did it is claiming that this was all an accident.
Yeah,
we've seen the video. What are your thoughts? Was this an accident?
My thought is if one of my children did that, they wouldn't be alive, right? Not if they would have hit somebody like that. I mean, it's okay moving somebody out from lane 1 down the home stretch out to lane 8.
Yeah.
But causing physical harm in a race itself is usually frowned upon. At least in my household, it is.
Yeah. I mean, and the track can get a little, it can get aggressive out there.
Yeah, I know. We see spike wounds and things like that, and there's bumping and shoving. But generally, I mean, the only time I really saw any blows come to was back in 1983, the Livingston brothers. And I went back to look at one of their last workouts. They're doing 200s on the Willow Glen track, and my high school coach was watching them, and they started getting right in the middle of the 200s, started punching each other.
Wow.
These are twin brothers. And my coach at the time, he says, "Man, I like to see that. They're fired up for this weekend." So that was a different thing altogether.
Yeah, so, I mean, the only thing I can remember is maybe Gebre Selassie in the early 2000s down the home stretch actually got punched in the
I think it was
in
a
the
French guy or
body,
something like that. Yeah.
And it ended up working in his favor because he got a little speed boost from the punch.
And you don't want to give that guy a boost because he's very, very.
No,
he was very good.
He was very good.
Yeah, good. Really good.
I think we're both in agreement. I did the frame by frame on this video and was watching because I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to this runner. They were saying her baton got stuck in the other runner's apparel. I watched it. Her hand is visibly above, and she strikes down. I know. Your running movement doesn't go like that.
I know. I'm not a big fan, but in a few weeks, we have a couple guests coming in.
Ooh.
And one of them, not our next podcast that we're recording, but the one after, tentatively, is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Amal Saxena. And Amal I've known for a long, long, long time. But it turns out that, like a lot of my friends, and I'm sure your friends, they're quite prominent in their profession.
Yes.
Scary as it sounds. But in this case, Amal is the orthopedic surgeon to the stars in distance running. So Achilles tendon for Galen Rupp repaired, multiple Olympians, I think Kenneth Rooks, steeplechaser, silver medalist at the most recent. Amal's worked with him. Anyways, so Amal, for some reason, I'm on an email list, and he goes to these conferences around the world talking about, distance runners and injuries. And some of the stuff they came back with on his most recent adventure he sent over. And bicarb loading is kind of a big deal right now. It's been going for a little bit. Last year was double threshold runs, and now it's bicarbonate loading. Well, the theory, if you don't know, if you're under a rock or something like that, like I was with this baton thing, is bicarbonate, baking soda essentially it neutralizes the hydrogen ions or basically your lactic acid, right? So this idea has been around for the 60s and 70s. In fact, a gentleman we had in yesterday, and we'll speak about him, Chris Ekman, who is in charge of one of the innovation guys at ASICS. He ran for a friend of mine, Robert Chapman, who has his PhD in physiology, and he was the head coach at University of Indiana. He took over for, I believe, Sam Bell when he retired. Sam Bell's legendary. Anyways, so Chris would say, yeah, we were doing bicarb back in the 90s. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, coach would give us a vial of, and he'd say, mix it in your drink. And so we would drink this stuff down, and you had to time it perfectly.
Yes.
The problem is that he said it worked great for the 800, but not the 1500 because it gives you really violent bowel movements in the middle of the race because it really messes with your GI tract. And so you had to know where the bathroom was and time it perfectly. When you finished the 800, you ran a good time, but you had to continue that finish all the way to the outhouse or the bathroom.
It's always been well known that the bicarb works, but it just hasn't been used over the years because it causes extreme
GI
distress. And we've seen it a little bit more commonly with swimmers because, maybe having a little bit more upset stomach in the pool is maybe a little bit more than running, a little bit less bouncing. But regardless of if you're in the pool or on the track, if this bicarb hits you at the wrong time, it's not pretty.
Right. And what happened most recently is Morton, which is one of our nutrition brands, they have a process where they basically you take it in and it bypasses your GI tract. And the same thing with their other nutrition products, caffeine and so forth, which goes directly in your blood system. So it's immediate like that. But the advantage on the bicarb with the Morton is it bypasses your GI tract, so you don't get the explosive reaction that you do without it. So I know a lot of college kids don't have the money for whatever reason. They can't buy it or whatever, but so they're experimenting in the garage, and we're going to have a lot of accidents on the track this track season. It's not going to be pretty.
And you're not joking about this. I've heard from a few sources that a couple people are trying to make their own Morton concoction, and
in the garage.
Let's leave it to the professionals here.
Don't do this.
And we're hoping to get it. We actually don't have the Morton bicarb on our site yet, but we're hoping in the near future that could change because people want it.
People want it. And so the reason Amal sent me this study, he just didn't send it to me, but other people, but one of the byproducts of bicarb is a potential increase in plasma volume.
That's always good.
Well, it is. So one of the reasons you don't want to be dehydrated at the start of a race is a large part of the liquid is in your blood plasma. So one of the key factors in fatigue in a race is dehydration. You lose blood plasma volume. So your body starts to shut down.
Right.
So theoretically, if you can have a greater volume of blood plasma at the start of the race, it'll delay fatigue.
Okay.
So bicarb supposedly increases your blood plasma level. Now, this is really a big deal, not so much in the shorter distances, but when you start thinking about the marathon, you start thinking about hot weather, there's a thing called liquid endurance by Hammer Nutrition, and it's actually legal, and it increases your blood plasma volume before the start of a race. So, I think
Has this always been legal?
No. Recently, it became legal.
Okay.
So there you go, folks.
Don't ask any questions.
Particularly in warm weather distance events. So I can see how bicarb in the shorter races, the middle distance, the 8 and the 15, the benefit's really going to be the hydrogen ions where you're out quick and you get a lot of lactic acid immediately. in the 5K and beyond, it's going to have a combination effect. In the half marathon and marathon, it's going to have more of an effect, in my mind, on the blood plasma.
Yeah.
So it's going to delay dehydration, which is going to let you go. It's just one of the factors, but it's going to theoretically allow you to run your marathon pace for a longer period of time.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested in trying it. And I think when we have them all on, we can maybe dive a little bit more into this.
We will, and it's going to go in the weeds.
Because I've heard a little bit about this blood plasma and how you can raise it. And I think there even is some ways with heat training you can do some of that.
Yeah, but
we'll dive into it.
We'll dive into it them all.
He's the real expert.
I know.
We're just making
just
things
a couple
up.
Jokers. A couple of other things that maybe people in listener or reader land or watching land. Birth control pills. Apparently, according to most of the studies you look at online, birth control pills decrease the incidence of Achilles and hamstring injuries.
Decrease or increase?
Well, the current studies show that it increases injuries or potential injuries in hamstrings and Achilles.
Okay.
The other thing that significantly increases the chance of stress fractures is ADHD medication in young people. So I don't know how many people are running cross country and track and they're distance runners,
right?
But it might be something to put on your radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I don't even know, I think at the pro level that it might even be not legal. I think there were some pros that were having some issues with getting some of that medication.
I don't know what benefit it offers outside of helping people that have that affliction.
But WADA is known for putting stuff on the list that maybe doesn't really make sense because it's not a performance enhancer, but they still have it banned.
Yeah, it's like marijuana, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's legal, illegal only certain times of the year.
Right.
So anyway,
it's frowned upon.
We won't go into that. So yesterday, this is recent history, we had a couple things going on, and first thing in the morning, this is early for us, people out there listening to us, but we had an 8:30 meeting, which is scary early for us. But we had the innovation team from ASICS here.
Yeah.
So back in February, I went to the New Balance indoor meet, and that was on a Sunday. And then being on the East Coast, was going to go to Milrose the following Saturday. But in the meantime, I figured I'm out on the East Coast. I might as well go see ASICS and New Balance in Saucony, which are all in Boston. So one of the days I went to the ASICS Design Center, which was really cool. And I was talking with Chris Ekman, and he was mentioning, I said, when are you coming out to California again? Because he was one of our Adidas reps. So when we first started in the industry, after he was taking Bicarbonate and using the outhouse for University of Indiana, he was our Adidas rep.
Right.
So we've known him for quite a long time.
And a shout out, you can actually go way back into our archive of YouTube videos, and there are some with Chris.
So when I was out at their headquarters, I said, when are you coming out to California again? He says, well, ASICS is sponsoring the LA Marathon, which is tomorrow, or it's this weekend. And I said, well, why don't you plan on coming out a day or two early and then come into our facility here in San Luis Obispo, and then we'll continue down to Santa Barbara and have lunch with Jeff Gray and Jean-Luc and Stuart Jenkins, the shoe nerds.
What we refer to as the Avengers of the running shoe world.
Avengers. So that's what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
So the first order of business was me, you, Jonathan, Eric, Becky came in on the Zoom, who are our footwear buyers.
Right.
And then also you had Coda, who's design, Koba, who does more materials and that sort of thing, foams, and then Chris, who kind of pulls it all together.
Right.
So this most recently, this team was the ones that invented the Super Blast.
Right.
They were the key team that invented the Super Blast. So for those that like the Super Blast, which is a lot of people, this is the team that we had in here. So we talked to them for, about 2 hours?
Yeah, about 2 hours.
Yeah.
We gave all of our feedback on what's been working, what hasn't been working, what we'd like to see. We had some upcoming shoes out that we were talking about, which if you like the Super Blast, you're probably going to like some of these new shoes.
You're going to love them.
But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, what they're looking for is just our insight into areas within the running shoe industry that there's misses.
Right.
Like customers are asking for something. And right now, it doesn't seem like there's anything like that. But that doesn't mean they haven't found anything through our discussions.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like, we're seeing so many great running shoes in the industry that you're like, everything could, some people might say everything's covered, but then when we start talking, the more and more our ideas just pop off. And we're like, well, what about this? What about that? And we came up with some good ideas that I think at least gave them something to go back to the drawing board and see what they can, draw up. So.
Right. And then from there, myself and the ASICS team, we drove the hour and a half down to Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And
horrible drive.
It's actually one of the prettiest drives. From Santa Maria to Goleta is pretty nice.
Yeah.
If you like oak trees and rolling hills and grass and the ocean, if you like that sort of thing, it's pretty nice. So we go down to this place called the Nugget. And as you can imagine, there's a Wild West theme going on there.
Okay.
So we're there, and we meet Jean-Luc, who's the founder of Hoka. We meet Jeff Gray, the founder and the guy behind Helix, which tests stuff. Stuart Jenkins, who's behind things like the original Pegasus and the Clifton and things like that. And the ASICS guys. And we're just talking about random stuff. So some of the things that we talked about was the subject of 3D printing came up because Jeff had been down to LA the day before to one of the large, and I forget the name of it, but looking at testing on 3D printing stuff. And Chris was in the middle of studying 3D printing, and so was Jean-Luc. And Stuart has done 3D printing. I'm just listening because I have nothing to offer here. One of the things that 3D printing is good for is customizing things. Jeff does a lot of work with the golf industry. So he works with Tiger Woods, he works with Callaway Golf, he works with TaylorMade, he works with a variety of different things. But one thing I wasn't aware of, I golf a lot, but I'm not completely in tune with professional golfers. But the morning of a tournament, each day, they have custom-made clubs. They have certain heads, shafts, and grips customized based on the conditions they're going to face that day. So it's to that level. Mm-hmm. And apparently in the Tour de France, you don't wear the same, or you don't run or ride the same bike every day. You have it customized for what you're going to experience that day. And then I was talking to Jean-Luc because he's an expert on UTMB, and it seems like, I said, well, this is the one thing I had to offer. I says, well, it seems like you would have like 5 or 6 different shoes for the different terrains and things you're going to encounter on UTMB. He goes, no, actually there's 3. I didn't ask him what those 3 were, but there's 3 distinct shoes that you change into for certain sections. And one of the things that Jeff brought up is the fact that you can customize midsoles on the fly for top-level athletes. So imagine this. You get to the morning of a race, and you have the specs for this athlete. You have their cadence, you have the pace they want to run, you have all their little idiosyncrasies. The morning of the race, you can dial in on your 3D printer the midsole material, like the cushioning, the rebound, all these types of things, and make it customized for that athlete on that day. You can't do that with a foam. That's where this is going. So you can customize for your top athletes the morning. So now we have super spikes and super shoes. Imagine that on steroids.
So what would be the benefit of getting it the day of the race?
It's windy. You're running into a wind.
So that could actually have
It's going to have an effect.
Interesting. Yeah, you don't even think about that.
Or
the ground is maybe a little slicker.
Or you have long gradual downhills, or you have long steep downhills, or you have rolling hills, or you have a certain track with a certain rebound.
Yeah. And you can 3D print these shoes that fast?
Yes, that morning.
Wow.
So think about it. You can customize the footwear for that athlete the morning of the race.
Yeah.
Then you can take it a step further, and you can customize shoes for the influencers. Seriously.
Yeah.
So then you get a more positive review online by the content creators, and then you have just your regular models that go out to the general population.
That seems a little gray area.
It's totally gray area, but think about it. I mean, would brands be above that? No.
I don't know.
No. But, we're talking, one of the things that was brought up is, and Stuart's a big golfer.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I mean, you have different, and I mentioned this before, his thing is that if you're golfing, you have different stiffness of shafts based on your swing speed.
Right.
So you should have different stiffness on plates, different curvatures based on your weight, your cadence, the pace you're running. So imagine you're customizing that with the cushioning, with the rebound, with the athlete, completely customized shoes. So think about where we've come over the last 5 years with the time and where it's going.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I would like to have an expert on who could talk about that, because I don't even know how the process works with 3D printing. Like, are you 3D printing the carbon plate? Like, how does
Well,
this?
the 3D printing is more the midsole.
Just
so
the midsole.
You can do the weaves, you can do the direction of the weaves,
Uh-huh.
you can do the different. So you can actually dictate. So what provides the cushioning in the shoe is actually the compression.
Uh-huh.
So you can dictate how much compression you want. So right now we have these really high stack heights to provide more cushioning. You could have a lower stack height and provide the same amount of cushioning because you could dictate how much the compression ratio is.
Yeah.
So you could make a lighter shoe, an even lighter shoe.
It's interesting. Yeah,
It's crazy stuff.
I think you're right with all of this 3D printing. There's so much more opportunity for customizing, for making very niche products. Will this ever be a mass market thing? Probably not anytime soon.
No.
Because it takes time and effort, but it opens up the possibilities
But
for
people are asking what is the next thing in performance technology.
That's
it.
probably
it.
Okay.
The other thing is you can, for just mass market, you can do little discs.
Yeah.
So like the old ASICS gel, you could do a disc for 3D printed and change the cushioning characteristics. It's less expensive. It lasts longer than a foam.
Yeah.
All these types of things. The other thing that was brought up is longevity.
Yeah.
So we talk about, okay, the big things in foams right now are lighter, softer, more rebound. What people are working on right now is longevity.
Right.
To make it last longer. And so according to the people at this table, they're up to the point where you can get a super foam that's as light, performs just as well, that'll last over 1,000 miles.
Really?
Yes, that's on the table right now.
See, and it's funny because when you start talking about that, I'm sure there's some brands who don't want a shoe to last that long because they want to sell more shoes. But once a brand offers that,
everyone's got to do it.
Right, you have to.
But that's a limiting factor right now. You can only wear these shoes for one race.
Yeah.
Imagine you can wear these for 1,000. The only thing that's going to limit you is really the outsole wear.
Right.
And you can't have a super thick outsole because it adds weight. So there's give and takes on all this stuff.
For racing, but maybe for training, that's huge because you can have a thicker, more durable outsole. And if that's lasting 1,000 miles, that's game changing.
It's pretty cool.
That'll change the whole running world.
Some of the stuff that people don't know, and we might go into this later, but compression molded in EVA, the running industry forever says shoes last 300 to 500 miles. That's BS. They last about 100 miles for a compression molded EVA.
At least you notice some nice performance decreases after
Big time.
100.
Right. And so you get a nicer foam and it lasts longer and it feels better for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So that's part of it is the longevity of these new foams. The other thing and Stuart's really big on recycling. And I was asking him, about, brought up the, was it the PEG Turbo that they used a recycled.
Yeah, the Next Nature.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And he goes, it's not going to work. Virgin foam's going to work much better in really high performance stuff. But in things like slides or sandals, you don't need performance.
Right.
You need a foam. And so that's the perfect application for recycled type materials.
Yeah.
And same thing with shoes that you're just jogging in, or like tennis shoes or pickleball shoes or golf shoes that aren't performance necessarily. You need some cushioning, you need support, but you don't need the rebound that you need in a running shoe.
Right.
So that's a perfect application for recycled type of things. And then we took the discussion into something they were asking me from a retailer, how much importance does the consumer put on recycled stuff? And I said, everyone will say they're all for it, but they will not pay for it. So two things have to happen for someone to use a recycled product. One is has to perform as well or better than everything else in that category.
Yep.
The other thing is has to be the same price. Even though people will say, yes, I'll pay more for it, they won't. They don't do it. And Patagonia is a good example of this. Their backpacks are fantastic. They last a lifetime. They're on par with everything else. They're better than everything else in the category. Oh, by the way, they last a lifetime because you can send them back and they fix them.
Yeah.
So you're saving the planet, but you feel good about it. But that's not the reason you buy it. I mean, I'm not above this. I've had a Tesla for a while. That's great, and it's not really a good thing right now because someone's going to key my car in the parking lot here in a moment. But if like Jason down the hall, he owns all kinds of Tesla stock. He's completely hosed at the moment. But beyond that, the reason I bought it is because it has lifetime free charging.
Right.
So I drove down to Santa Barbara yesterday and back, and it's roughly 200 miles round trip. And gas is going for $6 a gallon here. My old car got 20 miles a gallon. So 200 miles is 10 gallons. So I save myself $60.
Right.
And there's really no maintenance outside the tires in that vehicle.
Right.
So it's free to drive it.
Right.
Essentially.
And what you're saying is, sure, you're saving the planet, but
I'm saving my pocketbook.
you're saving your
It's
pocketbook.
all about numero uno here. And I don't think I'm the only one
Right.
there.
And I've heard that a bunch of times with several different shoes that came out from different brands that were their recycled
Right.
midsoles.
They tend to be heavier. They don't
run as well. They're more expensive. And when you put them side by side, it's not a good value. You're going to go for the cheaper, better performing shoe.
Right. But if you had something like a Birkenstock,
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're worried about the support and so forth, but you're not worried about the rebound. You're not worried necessarily about the cushioning.
Right.
Right? And then this is also the perfect application, like slides are the perfect application for mass-produced 3D product.
Right.
Because you can use them around the pool. If they get wet,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They drain.
Well, on the topic of, what's good for the planet, there have been some under-the-table things that I've heard of some very mysterious midsole compounds that people are tinkering with, that the energy return, I felt a couple of them, the energy return is out of this world. They keep getting crazier and crazier, but some of these compounds I've heard that what it takes to make the compounds
it's horrible.
is really bad for the environment. So then you have these dilemmas of, can you ever mass scale these because it'll be so bad, but the performance is so amazing? So,
And that's the problems that we have, like in China. Fortunately for our industry, the running, the real technical running thing, most of the shoes are made in Vietnam,
yeah,
which benefits our customers and it benefits us because the tariffs aren't going to apply to Vietnam.
Not yet.
They apply to China. And China, their production techniques are just horrible. Like what goes into the water, it's just absolutely heinous.
Right.
And the amount of waste,
Yeah.
it's really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go into all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but recycling's good.
Yes.
It's just not great for super high performance stuff,
Right.
but for stuff that's not at that level. So if you left the virgin stuff, virgin foams, high end foams for just the super shoes, cool, and the rest of it just use recycled, we'd probably be in a better spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep seeing it move forward.
Now, before I forget, because I always forget, what do the people have to do?
On this podcast?
Yes.
Well, just for a little mid-show, you got to like, comment, and subscribe.
Right. And I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
Because for some reason I'm getting up at 4 a.m. and feeling like I need to write. And
Right.
what do? I turn on my music streaming. I can go into music streaming.
Yeah.
I just found this out.
Yeah.
Like every album on the planet
Yeah.
is available on my phone. And now it plays. So I play that. I put it on YouTube and I start writing. So this seems like overload. And you add coffee to the mix.
Uh-huh.
It's a bad scene.
Yeah.
You don't want to be around it. But anyways, I've been reading a lot and writing a lot. And one of the things that I saw on the internet from our friends at Let's Run.
There's always something over at Let's Run.
It's very entertaining, and it's the message board is super funny. It's rarely correct. And what you've done is you've unleashed a bunch of young males with a lot of testosterone that don't have a filter onto a message board.
And they don't have to put their face behind
There's
it.
nothing attached to it, and there's no policing, and you just put whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you attack people and you shame people and you do all those kinds of things. But one of the questions they asked, this is Run for Fun Ask, which he's probably 17 years old and afraid of girls or something like that. But what percentage of your weekly mileage is in super shoes?
Yeah.
Do you want to address this?
Yeah, it's a good question because we hear about this a lot. And I think we can go into our thoughts, but I thought it would be fun to go into a couple key quotes because I went through every single comment on this thread and we saw.
I cannot do that.
Yeah.
The ones that have like 5, there's no way.
I had to
I'll
take
read the first one and the last one, and that's it.
But I picked out a couple to kind of give you a nice little spectrum of responses. So we got anything from, I do my long run speed work in a plated shoe. Someone said maybe 10% only their faster workouts where they're trying to hit specific fast paces. Why wear them for a normal long run? Someone said, I pretty much only wear them for races. Most of my running is done in a lightweight daily trainer. And then last one said, pretty much all of my runs in Super Shoe. And this person specifically said they run 80 to 100 miles a week, easy runs in the Prime X, tempo and thresholds in the Adios Pro 4. So, wow, what a spectrum of usage.
Yeah, well, I look at it a couple different ways. One is all the pro teams that I know, and I'll go with someone like Mark Coogan, who has a pretty good stable of athletes. They do not run in Super Shoes every day.
No.
There is not a top-level athlete that is running in Super Shoes every single day. They don't do it. There's a reason. There's no studies that I can find that indicate that there's it. But anecdotally, if you have every top person that's really good is not wearing these shoes every day, probably a good idea not to wear these things every day.
Yeah.
Peter Thompson, who's a friend of mine, and he's got this article that showed up in Athletics Weekly, which is a big track and field publication in Great Britain. His suggestion, he used to be in charge of coaching education for World Athletics, IAAF at the time. He does a lot of research on this stuff. He has more charts on the proliferation of fast times for middle and long distance since time began. But basically, his suggestion is to only use Super Shoes at the highest level of competition. And his has to do with biokinetic chains, which has to do with tension and so forth. There's a lot of different theories, but if you think about it, if you have a Super Shoe, it's making all of your workouts and runs easier. You're stressing your body less on a number of levels. So one of the things, I think it was Matt at Doctors of Running, he likened it to, okay, you're coming back from injury, you're on an Ultra G, which is a submerged treadmill. So yes, you might be running the same pace, but you're not getting the same workout because your full body weight isn't going down on the thing. So yes, you're running the same distance and the same pace, but you're not getting the same benefit. So yes, people are going to say, I'm running faster. Okay, that's fine. But if you think about it, one of the things is you have a carbon plate in there that limits the movement of your lower leg. So basically your whole lower leg is acting as a lever, but you're not activating the muscles in the bones and the tendons in your foot and your lower leg. So over time, what's going to happen there? You're going to get atrophy. So the benefit you're getting short term is not going to be the long term. So you're going to get injury rates. The amount of force that you can generate is going to be less. So it's kind of like it's a short term gain or a long term benefit, right? What do you want?
I agree. I mean, right in my early season, especially right now, we're starting to get into workouts. I'm not really using any plated shoes, maybe some stuff with super foams, but no plate. As the season progresses, I tend to like to add it in a little bit more, maybe one workout a week. By the end of the season, I'm probably doing both workouts in the shoe. And for me, I think the big thing is I am testing so many different super shoes. So when I find one or two shoes that I feel like I'm going to race in, I really like to do the workouts and get a feel for what those geometries are going to feel like on certain paces, really become, comfortable in these shoes. But again, you don't need to use them every day.
Not every day. And one of the things that it just dawned on me, we talked about yesterday at our lunch, was the extension of the plates in super shoes.
More and more of a topic.
So it started out with Puma extending like the tongue.
Yes.
But now the new Nike flats that I've seen extends it out the back.
I haven't even. I saw some protos of also extending out the forefoot.
Right.
I haven't seen out the back yet.
And so I don't know if you remember the crazy Jean-Luc shoe, the Hoka 10.9.
Yes.
And he was telling me, and he forgot more than I do. He was telling me the reasons why that does and doesn't work, right? But it has to do with his reasoning was he did it for deceleration. But if you think about it, if you're decelerating in a race, that's not necessarily what you want to do. But the idea is that you extend that plate and you provide more of a lever, which should increase speed. Because what you're doing with any of these super shoes is you're not increasing the cadence. Your cadence stays the same. You're increasing stride length. So the amount of distance you cover with each foot strike is
can
greater.
Add up quite a bit over a marathon.
And so even if it's a small percentage,
1 inch,
an additional inch per stride for a marathon
Huge.
is pretty significant. It's probably, I can't do it off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it's probably 300 meters.
Probably.
So a good minute faster.
Yeah. The 10.9 was a crazy shoe when that came out.
Yeah.
I don't know how many we sold. It was all about, I think the inspiration Jean-Luc had was from like downhill skiing.
Well,
and
yeah, we talked about that yesterday because he's a professional skier. But
yeah.
Where he comes from, where Hoka was invented, was in France, and this makes sense just from my background, is you don't make up nearly as much ground running uphills hard. You just want to stay with the pack and minimize your where you make up ground is downhill.
Right.
And if you think about the original Hokas, the whole thing with that is light, soft, and curved. You had a rocker. So you could bomb down the hill.
Right.
And that's where he's always thinking about the downhill portion of the run. And how can you minimize the effort taken uphill running, which is why he's a big proponent of carbon plates in trail shoes for uphill running, to make it slightly easier uphill and then design it such that you can bomb the downhill. And I just know from training, my training partner for years was my old roommate, Brent Griffith. So he was a 219 marathoner, I was 218. But I would kill him on the uphills. He would kill me on the downhills, but he always ended up with, like at Poly, we would do these same amount of uphills, downhills. But when we got done with that uphill, downhill section, he was always quite a bit in front of me because he made up more ground. So I had to spend a significant amount of time teaching myself how to run downhills.
Yeah.
It is a thing. So those people in listener land, if you're going to focus on get in the weeds and say, I need to work on improving my cross-country ability, it's the downhill section.
Yeah, and the 10.9, actually a great shoe for running downhill. What it is not good for, walking downstairs or driving.
No, it's horrible for that.
There was actually some
there's a warning on the box.
Yeah, do not drive with that shoe
because you can't. It was difficult.
The heel was
right. It was
so
too much. It got in the way,
bulbous.
so you couldn't hit the brake, which is bad if you're driving.
Yeah.
Stack hikes.
That perfect transition.
Perfect transition. Now, our friend, guy in our running club, Raj Paul.
One of the best looking runners in the game.
He's one of the most beautiful men on the planet. The guy is an Adonis, right? And apparently he was just a fat, ugly kid when he was younger, and then he converted himself into this Adonis. I mean, he's just beautiful. And he's the nicest guy on the planet. He's got funny stories about when he was an Uber driver and the things that happened in his car, but that's a different story altogether.
Yeah. And he's been killing it. He ran with us on the Aggies cross country,
and he
track, the roads.
Yeah.
But he's made this transition to the ultras, and he's just been taken over.
And he won the recent USATF 100-mile championship. He won by a couple hours or something like that. But these sleuths online is looking at the live feed and threw him under the bus and said he's wearing illegal shoes. Well, he didn't know he was wearing illegal shoes. And if you ever run in the shoes he was running, when he was running in the Skyward X, which should have been called the Bondi X, but the original Bondi X sucked, and so they don't call it the Bondi X. But basically, it's a high stack super foam with a plate.
Yeah.
The problem is, for whatever reason, USATF and Triathlon World decided that anything over 40 millimeters, regardless of the shoe, is illegal.
Yeah.
So in the world of triathlon, if you wear the Skyward X, it's illegal. You get disqualified. If you wear one of these shoes on the table, say an Alpha Fly, you're fine.
Yeah.
Even though the Alpha Fly is going to make you a heck of a lot faster than anything, like a Super Blast, like a Prime. Those things are not necessarily the fastest things on the planet.
Well, and Raj actually, we'll probably have to have him on the podcast at some point because a great talk. But from what I've read, what I've heard from Raj is he ended up picking the Skyward X because he was so banged up from recent training that he said, you know what, I've been doing all my runs in the Rocket X, but maybe I'll save my body a little bit more and wear the Skyward X. I won't be as fast in the shoe, but at least I'll make myself alive for the next couple races coming up. Right. So he wasn't doing this to get an advantage.
You wouldn't wear that shoe for fast.
It's not a fast shoe.
It's not a fast shoe.
But USATF, World Athletics, now triathlon, they've all now gone with these 40 millimeter sack height limits because they said we need to draw a line somewhere.
Well, the other thing is that shoe, the Skyward X, wasn't on the banned list. Like, if they have a list, I mean, the triathlon thing is absolutely stupid. They list these shoes, but it's not everyone that's illegal. So you look at it and go, my shoe's not on that list. I'm going to wear the shoe. And you go, well, they don't list every shoe so you got to take it upon yourself. And who's really going to do this?
Yeah, and I think where it comes down to is someone like Raj, and now he, believe me, he knows now that moving forward, if he's going to wear a shoe, he's going to have to double check the list and make sure it's on the approved list. As a pro athlete, I understand, but Raj is a teacher. This isn't his gig, so it wasn't even on his mind to check these things.
And on a similar thing. And this has happened this week. I've gotten emails and texts from people at their national championship in track and field wondering if there's legal spikes. And I'm telling them no, because I don't want to be the guy that says a dragonfly is legal. And then it comes out, you have a bunch of people that are enforcing the rules that don't understand the rules, and they're going to disqualify their athletes and go, well, Joe told me it was legal. I'm taking the fifth. I don't know which is legal and what's not.
And this is getting trickier and trickier because it used to be, we'd tell anyone who asked, don't worry about it. This only affects pros competing in world athletics events. Then triathlon came around with Ironman enforcing these rules now. And now NCAA is supposedly enforcing. We don't know how strict it's going to be, but to my knowledge, all I know is Dragonfly has been approved by World Athletics to hit that 20 millimeter new limit.
Isn't it surprising that all these rules kind of coincide with what Nike has coming out?
It is funny
and
that
and they have the meetings inside the Sebco building in Beaverton campus.
I don't know.
I'm just thinking out loud here.
And these rules change so quickly that now that it's affecting more people, you are going to have to be up to the times, because it used to be 25 millimeters for distance bikes. Now it's down to 20.
20. And you're asking these brands to respond like now, and you have when this rule come out, and these people can't change these shoes like in an instant.
Yeah.
It's like the auto industry. There's tariffs. Now we need to change your manufacturing where you're making it. Well, this is going to take like overnight, right? Yeah. All these parts and stuff.
Yeah.
How's that going to work?
The only thing I can hope for is now that we have some guidelines, we'll stick with these and maybe things won't change. But I mean, you bring up a good point that, just because a shoe's 40 millimeters, something that's higher, there's a lot of shoes that are higher that are not going to be faster. So it's a little bit arbitrary. I don't know if these are the best rules, but they are the rules we have right now.
They're the rules, and that's what we got to follow them. But, even I'm looking at the Cal Poly Invite, which is it next weekend? Next weekend.
It's coming up.
Right. One of the rules is your spikes have to comply with NCAA rules.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if those guys are going to, monitor that or what have you.
I don't even believe these officials know how to monitor.
No, that's what I mean. But if you like, they're having it, Adams State right now. Yeah. Is looking at athletes getting disqualified because they have prototypes from New Balance. Mm-hmm. Like who knows?
Yeah.
You get people enforcing the rules that don't know the rules.
Yeah.
Don't even know how to measure these stupid things.
It's a fun time right now.
It is. Now, I got to let you know.
Okay.
We can cut this part out. But I've been drinking too much water, so I got to go take a leak.
Cut.
That'll be funny. We can maybe keep it otherwise. You can just go in from there.
We will cut in from there.
And we're back.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Do you want to keep? We could keep the funniness of that, or
no,
we can
keep the funny. I don't care.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm back.
We're back.
We're back. God, that whole hydration thing. At least it's clear and it's not.
Yeah. Well, luckily you didn't take any bicarb today.
No, it wasn't. Okay, we're not. Yeah.
Well, we're talking stacks, and I think everyone's talking about high stacks,
right.
But we're starting to see some more trends of lower stacks, and we've got new shoes like the Streak Fly.
Oh yeah, these are new on the site, right?
Yeah, we got the Streak Fly that just came out. We've got the Vaporfly, which the Vaporfly 4 just came out. This is also not going to be your full 40.
But that's the original. That's the OG super shoe.
Basically,
but it's reimagined. I mean, that the name is the original, but that's lighter. It's more nimble,
And we need to address, we had some people call us out on our video that we launched the Vaporfly 4 on that it got a lot of likes calling me out specifically saying, actually, it's the Vaporfly 4, not the Vaporfly Next Percent 4. I will just say that everything that we got in writing on paper showed that this was the Vaporfly Next Percent 4.
And then it showed up.
It showed up. The box shows Vaporfly Next Percent 4. We did actually get word from Nike that it was a last-minute change, that they are going to shorten it to the Vaporfly 4. So we will refer to this as the Vaporfly 4, but it is the Vaporfly Next Percent 4.
It's getting numbers on it and stuff like that. I'm just assuming it's a prototype.
This is the prototype pair.
Yeah.
I'll take the loss that, yes, it is called the Vaporfly 4, but,
But also on the heel, you can see it extend out.
You can, and this is taking some of that inspiration we saw from the Alphafly. A lot of this shoe, it kind of is a little bit lower to the ground Alphafly without that 4-foot AirPod.
Right, lighter.
Yeah, so we're getting more options with a little bit less stack. Streakfly is going to be even less stack, and what I really like about the Streakfly is it's giving people some 5K, 10K, maybe even road mile options that are super fast, using the premium Piba foams. Now, this isn't the same foam that we saw in the original Streakfly, which was like a TPEE. We don't really know. It didn't have the bounce. Now this new foam has the bounce. It's aggressive. It's got the carbon plate, everything you need, and you get that feel, that true bouncy feel. So you're getting more options now at super lightweight. I mean, that Streakfly, basically sub 5-ounce shoe, it's awesome. But not the only super shoes we have.
No.
So we have also got Cielo X1 2.0, a pretty new shoe that...
Well, the 1.0 was mismarketed. It was a super shoe, and they marketed it as a racing flat. But this is actually a racing flat.
This is. And, a lot of people, I think when the original...
They're bummed. When the people that really like the original are bummed on this one.
I know, because when it first came out, I think a lot of the elites were interested.
Yeah.
They got it on. They're like, this isn't fast enough. Right. But it very quickly became adopted by people just wanting an awesome super trainer.
And that's what it was.
That's what it was.
That's what it should have been marketed as.
And now we've got a little bit of a difference with this shoe. I don't think it's better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah.
This is going to be your true racer. The original CLX, much better training option. And then the third shoe we have on the table.
This is interesting.
You might know this if you're really in on your running shoe knowledge.
I don't think we're going to sell like a dozen pair of those, but maybe.
I have high hopes for this one. It's not going to be quite as big volume as maybe the Metaspeed shoes, but this is the ASICS S4 Yojiri. It was seen in the ASICS market, or in the ASICS Japan market. We saw it. We're like, we need to bring this over to America. A cool design. So it's got a big top layer of FF Turbo Plus. We'll have an in-depth first look coming soon. But this shoe just gives people more options. What it was kind of marketed as either a training option or a racing option for maybe someone who doesn't want the full meta speed, maybe your 3-hour plus marathon, someone who wants a little bit more stable shoe, this bottom layer, a little bit firmer.
Just can see that as a really good training option.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's going to depend on the type of runner, but for higher end runners, and it's good price point.
We're seeing more shoes come out with an upper layer of super foam
and bottom layer,
and the bottom layer of something a little bit more less expensive
and more stable.
And it's not the only one. No. I mean, we're even seeing that concept in like the new Vomero, the 18, right?
Yeah,
it's got the whatever Zoom X on top, and it's got is it React?
I think React X. Well,
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So it's great for training options.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you get a nice balance of fun, performance, while also having stability. So
yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
The next thing that we'll go into is running shoe myths. And this has more to do with I kind of took some of the stuff that in my other interest and applied it to running shoes. Okay. So one of the things that if you're looking at and I'll use cars and golf clubs and stereo equipment, hi-fi equipment. Oftentimes, people will say it has certain tech or certain specs, so it has to be good.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And someone will say it has a 5 mil drop, and it's got to have a 5 mil drop.
Yeah.
But one of the things that isn't taken into account when you talk about that is actually how soft the midsole is. So if you have a 0 drop shoe with a super soft midsole, you actually have a negative drop.
Yeah.
And if you have a really firm midsole, you have less of a drop.
Yeah.
So you just can't say that it has a 4 mil drop and that's what you want.
We saw this a lot because a lot of people complained with some recent shoes. Specifically, the one I remember was the Triumph. It went from an 8 mil to a 10 mil drop. And 8 mil is a very common, it's a good, nice middle ground for a lot of people for training shoes. A lot of people say, I will not go higher than 8 mil. And then when it changed to 10, everyone started freaking out saying, why would you change that? But it was actually the durometer of the foam was compressing that the 10 actually was what the old 8 mil felt like, but people weren't willing to take that into consideration when they complained.
And will be interesting to find out about the new Clifton.
Yeah.
Because it went from 5 to 8.
Right.
With the concept being it has a softer midsole.
Yeah. So we'll see.
And so it's going to compensate. But the problem is, from my standpoint, is it has a compression molded EVA midsole, which isn't necessarily the softest thing, but also it's going to lose its cushioning quicker.
We'll see.
I don't think anyone's going to really give a rat's about that.
Yeah.
What they're going to see is the difference between a 5 mil and an 8 mil. And are people going to say that's okay?
Yeah, I wonder with a shoe like the Clifton, because I think there's definitely going to be people that maybe don't like that.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a lot of people.
A lot of people
Clifton
don't even know or don't even care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to have a significant impact.
I don't think so. And as long as it runs like a Clifton.
I think it's, it seems like it's geared towards more people, for a comfort solution.
Yeah.
Like walking in it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Clifton,
and
Bondi
jogging in it?
have been like that for a while.
Yeah.
And it seems to every year move a little bit more. And if you really want the goods, you get something like a Mach.
Yeah, the new Mach X2 or 3, is it? It's a 3 now. Coming out.
So Mach X2 is what's out now.
Right.
That's the one that is fantastic, but has some heel slippage,
Yeah.
some heel rubbing.
Issues, yeah.
But that will be fixed in version 3.
Yeah.
So some more to come on that. But yeah.
And there you have it. So you just can't go by tech and specs.
No. It's a full package you got to keep into consideration.
And you could try shoes with the exact same specs and have a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at something like the Endorphin Trainer, on paper it looks great. I think when you try it on, you're going to think maybe not so much.
Yeah, and in the Endorphin Trainer is a very hot topic in our building right now because we were trying to figure out, who is this for? How many are we going to sell? Because you're right, on paper, seems phenomenal. It's got the new Incrediron foam. If you don't know, Incrediron is what's used in the Endorphin Elite 2.
Right.
It's the premier, pinnacle elite racing shoe. I love it. Everyone who I've had try it on so far has been loving it. It's a game changer in the foam space. So when we heard that this foam was going to be used in the Endorphin Trainer, we said, it's a slam dunk. The problem is it's only using, I think, half. It's a part Incrediron, and the other part is a very firm, it's some sort of EVA based, and it doesn't have quite the incredible experience that we see in the Super Shoe. Is it a bad shoe? No, it feels very similar to the Kinvara Pro. If you were a fan of the Kinvara Pro,
you're fine.
I think it's an upgrade.
It's an updated Kinvara Pro.
Yeah, and I think actually some bigger runners, some maybe heavier runners that I've heard, a lot of them really like the Kinvara Pro and are liking this shoe, but I don't think the Endorphin Trainer is maybe the ideal shoe that I was hoping for. It's not a bad shoe, but I just think it's going to be a little more niche.
Yeah,
some people it'll really work for.
Just called it the Kinvara Pro 2 and kept the Endorphin name for just just really
kept it.
If you want something really fast.
And my whole thing is, if you're going to use that foam, let's put it in something incredible. And I've seen some Incrediron applications in some training shoes that use 100% Incrediron that blew my mind. So I think Saucony is onto something. I think down the road, we're going to see some really cool stuff. And I'd say, again, if you're a fan of the Kinvara Pro, check out the Endorphin Trainer because it's an upgrade, but it's just not for everyone.
No, it's not for everyone. The second one we'll talk about is if you spend more, you get more.
Yeah.
So something that's more expensive is going to be better.
Yeah.
Right? And I think That is true up to a point. I think the cost of entry into our running shoe space is about $150. Anything significantly less than that, you're not getting the really good foams.
You know, I'd even maybe go 140 because we got shoes like the Rebel that are, you know.
Yeah, okay, 140. But somewhere in that.
140, 150.
About there. But when you start going into the $80, $90 retail running shoes, this isn't like last year's.
Yeah, this isn't a clearance shoe that was 150 at one point.
Right. But this is just something that starts at $90.
Yep.
Your upper materials aren't as good. They don't breathe as well. They're not as flexible. The foams are
usually just EVA.
Yeah, old school.
Yeah.
So it might have been great 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Yep.
But now there's a lot better options. So, but that said, there's diminishing returns.
Yes.
So is a $500 racing flat twice as good as a $250 racing flat? No, it might be better, but even incrementally, it's only good for a certain number of runners.
Yeah. Well, and the only shoe that's going to fit that is the Evo 1.
Right.
And I've raced quite a few races this past season in the Evo 1. Fantastic shoe, but I've had so many people ask me, should I buy it? Should I buy it? Is it worth it? And I say, over a marathon, do 4 to 5 seconds matter to you? Because if so, spend the extra money on the Evo 1. But between the Adios Pro 4 and the Evo 1, the weight savings and the foam benefits you're getting are so incremental.
And it's oftentimes it's a status symbol.
Yes.
Right, that you've got it and somebody else doesn't. And I've seen this like in Costco. Like I saw a guy that clearly didn't run. That was wearing the Cloud Booms or whatever they were, the On Super racing shoes. And you see that quite a bit. You see people with Alpha Flies in shopping or in the airport. And you go, this person doesn't look like an elite. But it's a status symbol. So is it a status symbol? Yes. Is it the right tool for the task? Probably not.
Or maybe those people just want to gain a few inches,
I guess. I don't know. But be aware that if you're spending a lot, and there's a portion of me that says sometimes you introduce stuff that's really expensive to make people think that that's an option and that half the price is a deal.
Yeah.
So maybe if you first come out with a $250 shoe, people go, oh my God, it's $250. But you also come out with one at $500, go, oh, well, this is only $250.
Right.
So it changed the perception. Like it's easier to open up the pocketbook because this is, but you have that in all kinds of things. I mean, you look at cars and, you get what, I don't know what it is, cars that's 6 figures. Well, here's a similar option that's $40,000. Right. Oh, wow, that's a good deal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's actually the case, but it could be.
No, I mean you'll definitely see that with like a Dodge Challenger.
Yeah.
They'll throw a supercharged V8 in the $100,000 and then they'll have a V6. So you're getting huge performance differences, but one starts at maybe 30 and one starting at 100, but you get that same look. So just when you kind of give a glance, you get that aesthetic. And I think we see that really closely with like a Rebel versus an SC Elite. When you look at it, you get that sleek, aggressive aesthetic, but very different price points.
And you also have that in golf when PXG came out. It's a brand, but it's very expensive.
Yes.
Did it perform better than stuff at half the price? No. But it was a status symbol, right?
Right.
But also, now that they come out with lower price stuff, you go, oh, I can get a PXG for half the price.
Yeah.
But it's the same price as everything else in the marketplace. You go, this is a good deal.
And we saw it with the Evo 1, very limited pairs, very unique technology at $500, and it was selling out because I think when you put something that has amazing performance benefits that's vastly, or is at least enough different from the competition, you're going to sell it, especially at low volume. The problem comes when the competitors start getting stuff close enough, things like the Elite 2 that were getting really good foams at nearly half the price point. That's when the appeal of those 500 go down because you're like, hey, I can get the same tech at half the price. Why would I go the more expensive?
Yeah, but there's a variety.
There's a lot of factors.
But so also, the next thing we'll talk about is always thinking that you just got this racing flat, but somebody came out with a new one, and that's got to be better.
Right.
Always wanting something new, always because it's got to be better.
Yeah.
And usually that happens if you have been doing something for a long time, and I put different categories. Like I'm going to pick up pickleball next week.
Okay. You're doing it.
I am doing it.
Oh, wow.
So
You should get a Cairo appointment scheduled now.
So I don't know the first thing about pickleball. I don't know what the rackets or paddles, wherever the hell you call them. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I kind of know what they look like. I've seen the ball. I don't know how it bounces. I don't know how big the court is. I don't know how to keep score. I don't know what clothes you wear. I don't know. I know you wear court shoes. You don't wear Bondis. I know that.
Right.
Do you wear a glove? I don't know. A headband? I don't know what you do with this. So Boone, who's been doing pickleball for 40 years, is going to teach me to do this.
Okay.
But I'm entering this just off the couch. I have no clue. I don't know what works, what doesn't work. I don't have any point of reference, right? And so if I get something, I go, well, there's got to be something better than this. But I don't have the frame of reference. So you go from off the couch and you've been doing it for a while and you become a hobbyist. So I would say in golf, I'm a hobbyist. Like I don't go to the range.
Yeah.
I don't go practice anything. I have my clubs. I just hit. But I've been doing it and I go, okay, maybe I can get some new stuff that's better. But if you go from, so in my life, I would consider myself a hobbyist in hi-fi, in classic cars, in golf. And off the couch, I'm going to be pickleball. Lifestyle is running.
Yeah.
I know a lot about running. So I know what to focus on there. So if somebody comes out with $1,000 pair of running shoes, I can look at it and go, nah. But there's going to be people that don't have my experience that go, oh, that's got to be better.
Right.
Right? And so that's the thing, is always wanting something new. And then when you become in this hobbyist stage where you really start getting into it, then you start becoming a gearhead.
Right.
Not everyone does, but a lot of people do that go, I need this and I need this. And you start looking at your garage and you have a garage full of golf clubs that you don't play anymore because you're collecting all this stuff.
Yep.
And then when you get beyond that, you go, well, everything I have is, it's just me. I'm not a good golfer, so it doesn't matter which clubs I get.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to be good. And same thing with running stuff. It's like, yes, the running shoes are going to help a little bit, but really, is it going to be that big of a difference? No.
And we've been having more and more talks about this with how fast times are getting.
Yeah.
We've seen NCAA indoors this year just to qualify. Was basically the fastest time in previous years. That was just the time to qualify.
Right. The winning time from 10 years ago would not have gotten you in the meet.
No.
Yeah.
We're seeing world records in indoor just left and right. American records by Grant Fisher in the 5K and the 3K. Just the list goes on and on. Jakob in the mile. Yared, Yared only had it for a little bit and Jakob took it away. So we're seeing so many fast times. And I think there's a lot of people who were saying, oh, it's all the shoes, it's the shoes, it's the shoes. Yes, the shoes have made a little bit of an impact on times over the last couple of years. But at this point, we have to admit that it's not just shoes right now. There are a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors going on there.
At play.
Right.
But regardless, it's...
But for the average person, it's like, okay, are you training at a certain level?
Yeah.
Is your nutrition right?
Yeah.
Are you doing all the little things necessary to really run faster? It's not simply just buying a new pair of shoes that's going to get you better.
That's going to really, I'd say for the new runner, having a pair of shoes that keeps you healthy is going to be more important than the super shoe that gives you a couple extra seconds.
Right.
On a race day.
And, one of the things about getting something new, I mean, it's not necessarily going to make you better, but it's fun. It feels good. Just admit that, hey, I want a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be the only human on the planet that likes new stuff.
We're not opposed to you buying new shoes here at Running Warehouse.
No, not at all. But there's people that collect watches, right? They
Yeah.
like to collect new watches. Yeah. I have a friend who has a watch collection.
Yeah.
He actually hides them from his wife because he's buying so many freaking watches that
it happens.
I know he's obsessed with watches.
Yeah.
It happens. People get running shoes. People get all kinds of stuff. They get, some people get into cars, like Jay Leno, like he just has cars. He buys cars.
Yeah.
But he can afford to do that.
Yeah.
But people have different obsessions. So just admit it. It's not going to make you necessarily better.
Totally.
The other thing is be careful what the experts say.
Unless it's us.
If
it's us, you got to just...
yeah.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of experts out there that will talk about running shoes, and you know what? They haven't even run in the shoe.
Yeah.
It's all based on specs and their thoughts that this might be a great shoe.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of times when you watch our first looks, we're doing them so far in advance that oftentimes I can only try one shoe on in the hallway.
That's not even production.
I can get a very preliminary feel. And a lot of times, we want to get these out to people as soon as possible. So we're giving you our very, very basic first thoughts, but we try to keep them very spec focused because, at the end of the day, we won't know the true performance until we get out and can test them. So, the first looks that, we do that a lot of people do, great for building hype, great for, getting excited for a product, seeing if this should be a shoe on your radar, but it's not until you can actually get the miles in. And again, every shoe reviewer is going to be different. Me versus Thomas over at Believe in the Run versus Kofuzi, everyone's got a different gait, a different stride frequency, a different mileage per week, different goals. All of those can impact how you feel a shoe. So just because a shoe doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you.
Right. The other thing too is like the Zoom Fly, for instance.
Yeah.
That showed up. We saw it 6 months before you got here. And we go, that's a miss.
Yeah.
It was heavy. What? Fine. We'll order a couple of them. Showed up completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Lighter, great shoe.
Yeah.
What we saw 6 months earlier was not a great shoe. So it just showed up differently.
Yeah, sometimes the brands realize maybe we didn't hit the mark and they make some last minute changes. A lot of times changes can't be done that late in the game, but when they do with the Nike Zoom Fly, a great surprise for us, and we've sold it really well because it's really the first Zoom Fly that's hit the mark for the true training companion to the super shoes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the other thing is a lot of the people that are reviewing product, their review is from one perspective, their perspective.
Right.
So you'll get somebody that's 120 pounds, male, that's running 5Ks and 10Ks and doing track work and all these things, and will say the best daily trainer is the endorphin speed.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that someone's just coming off the couch whose doctor told him to get out there and walk or jog 20 minutes 3 times a week. That is not the ideal shoe for them. So depending on which expert you follow, you want them to align with what works for you.
Yeah.
The other thing too is this is a journey. This running thing is a journey. You start with not very much knowledge, and as you go along, you get more knowledge. And so it's a journey through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And as you make your way through that journey, you should have different people that you look to, either read about or listen to. Yeah. Or YouTube. Yeah. It's going to change over time.
It's like the news right now. Mm-hmm. You can't just if someone tells me that they listen to one news station, I'm not going to take them seriously because you have to look at people from far sides. You got to look at the middle, and usually it is somewhere in the middle. You got to take in all perspectives and weed out the junk because there's a lot of junk out there.
There's a lot of junk.
And I think from one thing that I recently heard with the Sacs was someone told me because I was giving my thoughts on a highly cushioned shoe, and I said, I really like highly cushioned shoes. And they called me out, I think, on YouTube and said, you're giving really bad advice by telling people to wear these highly cushioned shoes. You shouldn't be wearing those. And I said, well, one, I don't wear highly cushioned shoes every day. I always advocate for you need an arsenal. You need some highly cushioned shoes, some medium cushioned shoes. I even have some low cushioned shoes that I add into maybe some faster days to train the legs.
That's what you'd want to do.
And someone who says you shouldn't wear highly cushioned shoes, that's bad for you, I'd say, well, one, at times I'm running 80, 90 miles a week. If you're running 80 to 90 miles a week in racing flats, good luck making it through the week. I think it's balance. You need to have a good variety of shoes to really round out your training lineup.
Can we just make running easier?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, if that, and it also, does it make you happy? Does it bring you joy?
Yeah.
You know what? If someone's shaming you by saying you shouldn't run in cushioned shoes, well, screw you. It makes me happy. I don't care.
Yeah.
I didn't really ask for your opinion.
If it's keeping you healthy, I say go for it. Whenever someone tells me, should I change to this shoe? Should I change to that shoe? The first thing I ask is, what are you wearing now and is it working?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, if you've been doing something for 5 years and you've stayed healthy, I say stick with it.
The number one thing about shoes is fit.
Yeah.
And once something fits good, this is going to sound shallow, and I'm a shallow person, but color, style bring joy?
Oh, yeah.
Can we just be happy?
Oh, yeah.
And if something feels good and looks good, most likely you're going to put it on your foot and be excited about getting out the door.
Oh, yeah.
If the shoe is ugly and hurts, you're going to go, I'm not going out there. Now, the most important thing is, can we get people outside and doing things? I mean, that's the most important thing. And if you're telling people, your choice to get that done is wrong, well, I think you got some issues. You need to look in the mirror and go, Mr. Man or Mrs. Lady, just chill out.
Yeah.
Because your opinion is not welcome here.
My sister, she was wearing some street Adidas shoes. These are not running specific shoes. She loved the look of them, and she's running in them, and she's not doing crazy mileage. But I said, what are you doing? We've got a warehouse that I can get you any shoe in the world. Right. But she liked the look of those shoes. She liked.
Oh yeah, Marion, who's next door to me, I went to last April. I went to the Paris Marathon with Puma, and they sent me a pair of old school leather things, white. I don't know what kind of sport they were, but I tried them on. I wore them to the office once, and they killed me. And she goes, "Where are those shoes?" And I said, "Well, they hurt my feet." She goes, "They look great." And I go, "Yeah, but they hurt my feet." She goes, "So?"
Yeah.
She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "All my shoes hurt my feet, but they look great."
Right.
I don't know. It's just, and the same people who say that, they're the same people that say the old shoes, old designs, the old models were superior.
Yes.
No.
Very common thing we hear.
Right. We have, I don't know, these people just say, whatever the shoe is, the Epirus.
That's going way back.
I know, but that's what's being brought up. The Adidas Runner.
Yep.
The TRX trainer.
I think about me, the Nike Marathoner.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that shoe when it came out because it was like that little bit higher cushioned racing flat that was different at the time. And I always think like I'd love to get a pair of those to run them. But, I feel like if I did get a pair, it's just not going to live up to what I remembered.
No, the Terra TC.
The Terra TC.
Now, we've mentioned this before, but we as a company made that mistake once.
One time and never
again. We
again.
had maybe 12 people screaming to get the Clifton one back.
Yeah.
And we thought the whole world wanted the Clifton one back. Mm-hmm. And we brought the Clifton one back. And one of the guys who bought it was Thomas at Believe in the Run. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "This isn't nearly as good." And then he said, and I remember him on our podcast saying, I went and compared it with my original in the box Clifton ones. They were the same shoe. They just weren't as good. There's advances being made that make the shoe better.
It's funny. People were trying to tell us that those shoes, that the new ones weren't the same as the original, but they were. They were the same specs. They were everything.
And, the other part of it is there's a convenience factor and there's a nostalgia factor. Mm-hmm. And, I have this in spades. Mm-hmm. I have a 59 Austin Healey and I have a 2012 Tesla. Mm-hmm. One's completely analog, which means it's manual everything. You got to check every point of liquid on that thing. It's going to overheat. Sometimes it's going to run. And the same thing with stereo equipment. I have a Sansui integrated amplifier from 1971, and I have a recent Cambridge receiver. Mm-hmm. So the thing is with the old stuff, the parts are hard to come by. They don't always work. But there's something in the back of your head that says, this is awesome. This reminds me of 1970.
Yeah.
And it does. The problem is when you get up in the morning and you just want to turn on your stereo and have it work and listen to Hall & Oates or something like that, right? While you're writing. And you don't want to have to say, it broke again. And the same thing with my cars, right? I rarely drive the Austin Healey to work. Now, where I do drive the Austin Healey is in the summer when the sun's setting and I live right by Montano de Oro State Park, and I'll have the top down and I will drive when there's nobody in the park and go on the curves. And is it the fastest thing? No, but it is so fun. And my Sansui receiver is hooked up to a turntable and I'll play the old LPs and it sounds great when it's working. But the same thing with running shoes, right? You could have these super high-tech super shoes, but if you're running them in every day, they're not that fun. They're not the same as just having a good pair of running shoes that you like the looks of, excuse me, that are comfortable, that you don't have to think about.
Yeah.
You put them on, you go.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So when we'll end it on this, but does it fit well? Does it look good? Does it make you happy?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the specs. Don't worry about the price. Just does it make you happy? Does it get you out of the front door?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So we have 130,000 options to make you happy. Something like that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of options.
Right.
So what else do you have for us? We have upcoming stuff, don't we?
Oh yeah. I mean, we had a busy fall and, heading into winter, and then things have been a little chill, which is good. It's allowed us to recover, but we're getting back into the heat of travel and fun.
Well, we're both going to Boston.
We are.
You're filming a lot of stuff. I'm going with Puma.
Yep.
Then I come back, but you go to Germany, right?
I go straight from Boston to Germany for Road to Records,
which is Adidas.
Which is Adidas. That happens each year, and that'll again some nice fun content.
Yep.
Really getting to see the behind the scenes of really just a powerhouse brand that's on the rise right now. Adidas. I think when we looked back 5-6 years ago, they've always been there, but now
on fire.
They have skyrocketed to basically one of our top brands in every silo, other than, I think there's still some room in that classic daily trainer, but performance, they are just
on fire.
Excelling.
But if you look at some of these brands that are just killing it, like ASICS is killing it, big time killing it. And the stuff that they have coming down the pipe
I just can't
is
wait to
very
show.
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And in talking with the team, the stuff they have planned is really, really cool stuff.
Yep.
But they're not the only brand. New Balance has some great stuff. Saucony has some great stuff. Nike has great stuff. And Hoka, everyone has great stuff coming down the pipe. So that's really exciting. And our next guest, I got to say I don't know, there's a lot of podcasts that have had her on.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
And really one of the most prolific high school runners of all time, maybe?
So she is one of and we're not going to say who she is, but she is locally. She's local.
Yep.
She's coming to town to visit her father. And she was nice enough to agree to come on the podcast in a couple weeks. But she is one of the only runners, particularly on the women's side, that was one of the best in the United States, age group, high school, college, post-college.
Yeah.
She's our next guest.
It's big. And we've been trying to get her for
it's not
a
because
while.
she doesn't want to. It's just it's aligning our schedules.
Yeah. Because we're not going to do this virtual. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
Right.
And
And have her in here. And she lives with her husband in Pennsylvania on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so she's coming to town. So
The sleuths are going to go on and know exactly who we're talking about.
which is fine. They can do that.
But it'll be a big one.
Yes, exactly. I think that's what we have for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. A lot of fun stuff to come. A lot of big shoe launches. So keep an eye out on our site because I say it every week, but it's a good time to be in the running space right now.
Fantastic. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I have more physiology stuff to talk about next time.
Yes.
That's actually on my computer, but we've been talking too long.
Yeah.
So come up with it next time.
All right. Well.
All right. Well,
Until
thank you
next
very
time,
much.
I think we got the mid podcast plug, but we'll give it again for the people. If you didn't do it already, comment, subscribe.
Yes, exactly. I don't know why. You get. I don't know what happens if you subscribe. What should we be doing to get people to subscribe?
What should we do? You know what?
Unique content?
You know what I'd say? If you subscribe and you send us a DM on Instagram,
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so send us a screenshot that you subscribe to us, and maybe at the
You can't say maybe. We got to do something.
You know what? In 1 month, we'll pick one person at random and give you a little something. So send us a DM, give us a comment that you saw the podcast, and we'll send you something.
This? How about we do this?
Okay.
Off of one pair of shoes off of our website that we have in stock.
Wow.
Anything you want.
That's big.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be free. So I don't know how we're going to pick you.
Yeah.
This is something we're just making up. And when I say we're making up on the fly, we are. Not the Zoom fly.
No.
No, just the fly.
But it'll be a little honor system. But please give the like, give the comment, send us a DM that said you did it, and we'll make it happen.
We honestly appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are doing well. And until next time, peace out.